Hi, this is Daniel Brown. In this video, we are going to talk about payout diagrams. Our goals are to review the key building blocks for payout diagrams and learn how to build a payout diagram from a general portfolio of options, and also how to find a portfolio of options from a payout diagram. So first we'll go one way, First, we will look at the building blocks for payout diagrams. So in our portfolio, we can have options. The payout of a call option is the final stock price. So we write that as S sub T, T for terminal. So final stock price minus the strike if the stock ends up above the strike, and 0 if the stock ends up below the strike. The payout of a put option is the strike minus the final stock price if the stock ends up below the strike, and 0 if the stock ends up above the strike. If you're short an option, the payout's the opposite of these. If you're long n options, then multiply these answers by n. And we have our standard payout diagrams for a call option and a put option. Here I've got final stock prices from 90 to 100, and the strike of each option is 95. A couple other things that we want to look at. One is a forward contract. If you're long a forward contract with strike K, remember that obliges you to buy the asset for K, then the payout is the final stock price minus K. You make $1 for every dollar the stock ends up above the strike, and lose $1 for every dollar the stock ends up below the strike. If you're short a forward contract with strike K, then the payout is K minus ST. If you're long N forward contracts, then you multiply the payout by N. Looking at our picture, the payout of a forward contract is just a straight line. If the stock ends up at 95, which is the strike, it's worthless. For every dollar above the strike, you receive $1. For every dollar below the strike, you lose $1. Finally, one other piece, a zero coupon bond. A zero coupon bond just pays a certain amount of money at maturity. So if you're long a zero coupon bond paying X, then the payout is always X at maturity. And if you're short a zero coupon bond paying X, then the payout is always negative X at maturity. And again, this is just a straight line at whatever the zero coupon bond pays. Okay, so those are our building blocks. And if we have a portfolio, we might want to build a payout diagram. So here's how we do that. So the payout of the components of the portfolio are made up of straight lines. That's the thing to remember. And the only place where one of these components changes directions is at the strike. Second, if we add together a series of piecewise linear functions, we get a piecewise linear function. So if we have a portfolio of options, forwards, and zero coupon bonds, the only place where the payout can change directions is at the strikes on the options. So the zero coupon bond and the forwards are just straight lines, and so the payout doesn't change directions. Only the options can do this. So what do? We evaluate the portfolio of each of these strikes and at the highest and lowest stock prices on the payout diagrams and connect the dots. So let's do an example to make sure we understand what that means. Here is a portfolio. We're short a put option with strike 10. We're short a forward contract with strike 20. We're long a call option with strike 30, and short a zero coupon bond paying 5 at maturity. Okay, step 1. Identify the key levels. So let's go back to our portfolio. Here's our portfolio. The only levels we're interested in are the strikes on the options. So 10 and 30. This is the only places where the payout can change directions. We're going to draw this diagram on a chart with final stock prices from 0 to 50. The strikes and the options are 10 and 30. And so we need to evaluate our portfolio at 0, 10, 30, and 50. So the lowest level, the highest level, and then the 2 strikes. We can ignore the strike in the forward contract as we know the payout doesn't change direction at that point, so it doesn't really matter in terms of drawing our diagram. Of course, it matters in terms of the payout. Okay, so let's work through this table. We're going to look at each contract in turn. We're going to look at the 4 strikes. So the final stock price is equal to 0, 10, 30, or 50. For the short put, if the stock ends up at 0, we're short the put, so we lose $10. At 10, 30, and 50, the put is worthless. The forward contract, we're short the forward contract, thus we make money when the market falls. If the stock ends up at 0, we've made $20. Stock ends up at 10, we've made $10. Stock ends up at 30, we lose 10. Stock ends up at 50, we lose 30. The long call with strike 30. Well, that's worthless up to and including the strike, so at 0, 10, and 30. And it's worth $20 at 50. Finally, the short 0 coupon bond paying 5, we always pay 5. So no matter what the stock ends up at we pay 5. We add these up, so negative 10 plus 20 plus 0 plus negative 5 is 5. We get 5, 5, negative 15, negative 15. We have 4 points. Effectively, our x-axis is going to be the final stock price, and the y-axis is the payout. So we connect the dots. 0, 5, 10, 5, 30, negative 15, 50, negative 15, and we have our payout diagram. Okay, now we can go the other way. We want to build a portfolio from a payout diagram. Again, if we have a payout diagram, we must have either call options or put options at stock prices, final stock prices, where the slope changes, right? That's the only way you can change the slope. Second, a put option does not affect the payout above its strike, and a call option does not affect the payout below its strike. So we can use this property when we're building these properties when we're building our portfolio. Okay, adding a 0 coupon bond to a portfolio shifts the portfolio up or down. Adding a forward contract to a portfolio tilts the entire portfolio. Generally, we try to avoid doing this, and one of the reasons for avoiding this is a forward contract is really long a call, short a put, so we can always generate forward contracts using options. Okay, what's the strategy? The strategy is going to be find some place where the payout is 0. From that point to the left, use put options to create changes in the slope. Now, the reason we're using put options is that everything above the strikes and the puts is not effective. So if we work from that center to the left, we're not going to affect anything as we add new put options to the right. From that point to the right, we use call options for exactly the same reason. It doesn't affect anything to the left. So if we work from that point where it's 0 to the right, we use call options and we can create changes in the slope without affecting anything we've already drawn before. If, and it could turn out, there's no place where the payout is 0, then what we do is we use a 0 coupon bond as the first position. So basically we can shift to some level where now which is our starting point. This all works, and the thing to remember is there is no one solution to what is the portfolio. There are many ways to create any given payout diagram. And so we can build these things in many different ways. So this is a strategy. There could be other strategies as well, but this is what we're going to follow. Find some place where the payout is 0, use puts to create changes in the slope going to the left, use calls to create changes in the slope going to the right. Okay, so here's an example. We have this payout diagram, and we want to find a portfolio that creates this payout diagram. Okay, step 1, identify a place where the payout is 0. The payout is 0 between 15 and 20, so that's our starting point. We're going to use put options to the left. And again, we can kind of look at the picture and figure out what's going on. The first place where the slope changes at 15, the payout turns up. Again, we're going from that center point to the left, so it turns up, so we go long a put with strike 15. Second place is at 10, the payout turns down, so we go short a put with strike 10. And that will draw that first part of the payout. Basically everything below 20, we've just drawn. We're going to use call options going to the right. First place where the slope changes at 20, the payout turns down, so we're short a call with strike 20. Second place is at 30, the payout turns up, so we're long one call with strike 30. So, and that draws everything above 20, right? Once we've put those together, the slope never changes above 30. Thus, the portfolio that creates this payout is long a put strike 15, short a put strike 10, short a call strike 20, long a call strike 30. And that's how we create that payout.